Today we're here at Frances Segelman's home in Wapping. Frances is an international sculptor of immense reputation, a huge variety of famous leaders, actors, characters. She has decided some time ago that she wants to produce sculptures of survivors.
I'm here today because my dad is a Holocaust survivor. His name is Zigi Shipper and he's 92 now.
Growing up, we knew my dad was a Holocaust survivor, but we didn't really know what that meant. He didn't speak about it when we were young, and it was only when he was about 65. It was the same time as Schindler's List came out, and remaining Holocaust survivors were encouraged to write their testimonies. So my sister and I sat down with my dad whilst he painfully relived and wrote down what happened to him when he was a young man. My father and his grandparents were taken to the Łódź ghetto, where they remained for almost 4 years. They had very little food. They went from living in a beautiful apartment to living in one room with no electricity, no running water. And eventually one day they were told that they were being taken somewhere else. They were put on cattle trucks and eventually arrived in Auschwitz-Birkenau.
I was 5.5 years in the camps in everywhere. Auschwitz, Stutthof, Burggraben, doch, so many.
He then was on the death march, which was the way the Nazis, refusing to or trying to destroy all evidence and so on, literally death marches, which is literally what they were. And he was on such a death march, supported by a particular friend, Manfred Goldberg, who is another survivor who Ziggy always says saved his life at that time. And subsequent to that, he was liberated.
He eventually came to the UK and lived in Tottenham Court Road with his mother and stepfather. Eventually he set up his own stationery business. He now has 2 daughters, 6 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren.
I'm so 100% with Britain. Because of them, I'm still here.
I believe he was one of the boys, one of those survivors who were all together and looking after each other.
Those were people that arrived all over Britain. To begin with, they were in Windermere, but then they left and they came to different places.
So interestingly, the boys, in fact it was boys and girls, maybe a majority of boys, but who were survivors from the world they had come through and what they had seen. You don't overnight go back into a normal life.
My dad never really spoke about it when we were growing up. He said to me in the past that he didn't believe what had happened to him. How could he expect other people to believe it? And I think when the survivors first came to this country, they wanted to assimilate. They didn't want to be different. They just wanted to get on with their own life. And I think they were severely traumatized. How could they not be severely traumatized?
It is very important for Frances to be producing the sculptures she does, because when those survivors are no longer with us, we will have quality physical representations of them. Sculptures are another form, and a very powerful form.
I'm in awe of Frances and anybody that is so creative and that she can do this so quickly.
Well, the likeness to my dad is just unbelievable.
Frances, she is unbelievable. What she did, I couldn't believe it. You know, that just in so many hours, and she was wonderful, really wonderful.
I think this is so wonderful that Frances has decided to make a series of sculptures of Holocaust survivors. It's so important that people know about the Holocaust, know what happened. People like my dad are not going to be here forever. He's 92. He always jokes that he's one of the youngsters.
You can see how proud he is, and that it's so important to him that people know how proud he is, and yet also I can see some vulnerability in it.
And it's unbelievable. It looks exactly like me.